Yo, please let me know if you can hear me. I'm testing out the audio. Please let me know if the audio is working. Please let me know. I hope it's working. Testing the audio. We've got 100 people on Twitter, about 6 or 7 on YouTube just joining in. Is the audio okay? Please let me know. Is the audio okay? Drew, we can hear you. Cheers, Rod. Thank you, Rod. Thank you, Rod. Apparently there's something wrong with the quality. I'm not sure what the hell the problem is, but I'm about to go live. We're gonna put the turn off the okay, we're saying some people are saying it's good, some people are saying it's bad. Can you see me? Can you see me, guys? Hello, how are you going? It is the Drew Pavler Show, episode 118. What a beautiful day. It's been a crazy weekend, absolutely insane couple days. Like, I am struggling to get through all the messages, and it's just insane. It's just insane. We'll be discussing it tonight. Hello, Aiden, how you going? Z, let's go. How's everybody going? How's everybody going? This has just been probably the most busy couple days of my life. Someone's saying my mic is not working, but other people are saying that it's okay. Other people are saying it's okay. We've got 10 people on YouTube. Guys, if you're on YouTube, leave a like. Monica has messaged me. Yes, you can join in half an hour. I'll send you a link, Monica. We may have some new guests joining. I will be discussing a whole range of subjects. There's a lot of stuff happening right now. A lot of stuff happening. We have to discuss the fact that the President of the United States is telepathically reading my posts and ringing up Anthony Albanese to get mad at him. It's a beautiful thing. Aiden, I will possibly get you on later in the show. It's a packed schedule today, but we will see how it's going. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you're on my Twitter, I think there's actually a couple hundred people watching on Twitter. Please consider going through to the YouTube, leaving a like, watching it on YouTube. It is better. The live streams are better on YouTube. Unfortunately, Twitter has not built the live streaming infrastructure that we need yet. So YouTube is still a better viewing experience. If you want to watch, I encourage you to go to my YouTube and watch there. But until that day, I want everybody to just leave a comment. Let me know what you're thinking. I will get into the whole craziness of the week, but I want to let some more people join the broadcast first. Because let's be honest. Let's be honest. The audience viewership at the moment is not too high. But hopefully it will grow. I think we've got 167 people on Twitter right now, which is actually, that's great, but we want to get them to the YouTube. If you're watching on Twitter, go through to the YouTube. It's so important. So important. And God bless the President of the United States. He saw my post at Mar-a-Lago, rung Anthony Albanese, got mad at him. It's such a beautiful thing. And we will discuss it. We will discuss it. Let me see if it's... Now we cannot emphasize enough how important and powerful it is right now. Can you believe it? That we had the Trump tweet. It's kind of crazy. I was only a MAGA guy for like 6 months, and I got a JD Vance retweet and a Trump tweet. It's a crazy ride. It's a crazy ride. Can you believe that this was all set in motion by a crazy, schizophrenic, mentally ill meth addict breaking into my car on the Gold Coast? They broke into my car on the Gold Coast, stole my wallet, and if that had not happened, there would not have been this chain of events. There would not have been this chain of events that went from crack addict breaking into my car, stealing my wallet, to within 6 months, the President of the United States tweeting me out and then calling the Prime Minister of Australia and yelling him on the phone. That is an amazing trajectory. And honestly, at this point, I have to thank the hobo, the crack addict that broke into my car. I have to thank them at this point, because if that event had not broken me out of my libtardation, if that event had not broken me out of my leftard conditioning, then I would not be in a situation where we are calling in the President of the United States to annoy the Prime Minister of Australia. We would not be in that position. So we have to say thank you to the crack addict. We have to say thank you to the homo who broke into the Drew Pavlu car. That was an amazing thing. Honestly, an amazing butterfly moment in history. If the crazy homo had not broken into my car, I'd still be a leftard right now, probably. I'd still be a leftard right now. I mean, some people they just cannot break out of the condition. Have you seen that amazing event recently in New York City? A jihadist threw an improvised explosive device, a nail bomb, threw it at a anti-Islam protest organized by Jake Lang. Now, Jake Lang's a very hardcore guy, a lot further to my right. Do I think he should be blown up by jihadists? No, I don't. I do not agree with that, actually. I don't agree with the prospect of jihadists throwing nail bombs around New York City. I don't actually agree with that, even if I don't agree with everything Jake Lang says. Shock and horror. Shock and horror. We don't agree with jihadists throwing nail bombs around. Now, it is interesting though, the famous footage. It's amazing. You literally could not write this as satire. It's amazing footage. Now, this man, there was a progressive comedian, a left-wing comedian, some far-left comedian, and he was screaming into some kind of bullhorn. He was screaming into some kind of bullhorn, yelling about how he loved inclusivity, he loved diversity. He was yelling literally, diversity is our strength. New York City is for everyone. It's amazing. He was yelling this into the bullhorn. And then literally the jihadist runs up behind him and throws an improvised explosive device, literally throws a nail bomb over this leftard's head as the leftard is proclaiming his beautiful love of diversity. It's just amazing. You could not even write that as comedy. You could not even make it up as a joke. And it's amazing how stupid these people are. Some people, they just cannot break out of their conditioning. And the reason that I say that, the reason I even bring that guy up is, I mean, I was able to break out of my conditioning. I was able to break out of it when a crazy hobo broke into my car and stole my wallet. That was enough for me. That was the breaking point for me. That was the breaking point for Drew Pavlu. But other people, they can literally have jihadists throw nail bombs over their head. They can literally have a jihadist jump over their back and throw a crazy nail bomb at a crowd right next to them. They almost get blown up by a nail bomb, and that is not enough for them to break out of the leftard conditioning. That is a fascinating thing. You can just it can go either way. It can go either way. It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing that it can go either way. Guys, if you are watching on YouTube, I think we've got 25 live viewers on YouTube. Thank you to every single one of you guys for tuning in. Please leave a like on the video. Leave a like on the video. It's very important. Helps us reach more people. YouTube recommends us to more people in the algorithm. Leave a like on the video. That is so important. And if you are on Twitter, I think there are more than 100 people watching live on Twitter. Consider watching on my YouTube. Consider watching on my YouTube and subscribing to my YouTube. I genuinely think it is a better viewing experience. I do love X. I do love Twitter. And it is a beautiful, amazing platform, but you should watch on YouTube. It is not necessarily the best platform for live stream viewership. Now, yesterday, by the way, was Tibet National Uprising Day, and that's a very important day. It marks the anniversary. It marks the anniversary each year that the Tibetan people rose up in 1959. I see a comment by Rod. Was that a gay lisp? I have no gay lisp, Rod. That is not me. This is not an Anthony Albanese production. Dodo, why are you not streaming anymore, Drew? Look, I am trying to stream more. I will be trying to stream more in the coming days ahead and the coming weeks ahead. Someone says, dude, I think you're a good person, but Trump attacking Iran is not good. No, honestly, this is a disgusting regime. It's a disgusting dictatorship, and it's Russia's chief ally, China's chief ally. And I honestly think it's great if they get taken out. I view it as an attack on BRICS, an attack on the enemies of the Western world. It is geopolitically beautiful for the West to take out one of these top BRICS BRICS dictatorships. It's a really good thing. Somebody says, but Trump is now working with Putin for oil. Listen, I do think if we can take out the Iranian regime, the oil price will go back down very fast. I don't think that this is a structural feature of the economy that we are heading into. The oil is still being produced in the Middle East. It is still being shipped out of the Gulf of Hormuz. The U.S. carrier fleets and the U.S. are now talking about escorting shipments of oil. I think they're going to be able to get the oil out of the Gulf of Hormuz, the Straits of Hormuz, and I don't think there will be a problem. I genuinely think that it will not be a problem, and it will go back down. Rod says regime change has a terrible track record. Look, regime change has a terrible track record when you do it in Afghanistan, when you do it in extremely poor countries that, unfortunately, look, if we are being honest, Afghanistan is a couple hundred years behind in the development. Someone says my mic is echoing a lot. Listen, I'll try keep it still. I'll keep the mic still. So, okay, what were we discussing? Listen, I think regime change doesn't work when you do it in Afghanistan. Realistically, Afghanistan is a couple hundred years behind the West in terms of development. But Persia is a beautiful ancient civilization, and they have thousands of years of continuity as a state. They have amazing, impressive cultural achievements, intellectual achievements. And so I genuinely believe that Persia is an altogether different proposition to doing regime change and nation building in Afghanistan. I think Iran is actually quite a developed country. There's a lot of potential there. There's high human capital. There's an educated populace that really wants to live a secular lifestyle. And so I think it's just an altogether different proposition to regime change and nation building in Afghanistan. Let's be honest. We learned the tough lesson. We learned a very tough lesson. You can't nation build in countries that are 400 years behind developmentally. That's the sad thing. I don't think it's a biological thing. I think it's just, different societies have different levels of historical development, different levels of economic development, different levels of political and cultural development. And unfortunately, the reality is, Afghanistan is a very rural, poor society that is hundreds of years behind, advanced societies in the West. That is just the reality. Venezuela and Iran, these were countries that were developed 30, 40 years ago. I mean, at the point at which the Shah was overthrown, Iran was just as economically developed as Portugal. Now, Portugal is one of the poorer countries of Europe, but it is an EU first world developed country. So Iran, 30 years ago, was a first world, basically on the same level as first world developed countries. It was almost at the same level. Obviously, there were parts of very poor rural backwardness and poverty. But if you looked at Tehran, if you looked at the secular, educated parts of Tehran, they literally had first world living standards. And Venezuela had first world living standards prior to socialism crushing and destroying that country. So I think these are very different propositions. I think if you look at there's a range of countries. I think when we're talking about here, Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, where there's actually a lot of potential in the population. There's actually a high human capital population, very smart people, very educated people, and there's a lot of potential there if they did not have shithole regimes. Rod says, Drew, would you ever move out of Brizzy? Cheers, Rod. Look, good question, mate. Look, I love Brisbane. My family are all here. I was born on the Gold Coast. I've literally lived my entire life in Southeast Queensland. Literally never lived outside of Southeast Queensland. I've lived in Brisbane since the age of 2 years old. It's where all my family are, my friends are. So I just can't see myself leaving Brisbane. But I do want to spend a year overseas. I do want to spend a year in America just to see how things are in America. I would like to spend a year in America. But look, my long-term home is certainly, I believe, Brisbane in Australia. And this is where I was born. And this is where I've spent the most of my life. It's a beautiful part of the world, and I just love the culture. I love the people. Do you feel responsible for supporting strikes which killed hundreds of girls in Minab? No, I don't feel responsible for that at all, because I don't support strikes on girls, innocent people. It was clearly a mistake. It was very clearly a horrible tragedy, a horrible mistake. I don't believe that the United States of America was deliberately bombing a school like that. It was a horrible, horrible tragedy, a horrible mistake. And there is ultimately a difference between bombing a school on purpose and accidental mistargeting. There is a difference. There is a big moral difference there. Of course, there's a big moral difference there. And you know what? Here is proof of the moral difference. The proof of the moral difference between the United States of America and the Iranian regime is that the Iranian regime can hold these massive outdoor public rallies right now, proclaiming their love for the regime, proclaiming their love for Khamenei, Mojtaba Khamenei, proclaiming, they're holding these regime propaganda rallies out there in the open, and not a single person at these rallies is being bombed. And they know that they can hold these rallies in the open because the United States does not deliberately target civilians in the same way that the Iranian regime does that. Sayaru, is that I am misunderstanding, or does it say Trump really retweeted a tweet of Drew? Yes, it happened. It really did happen, and it was incredible. It was crazy. Yeah, it was amazing. The other day, Trump retweeted me at approximately 12:40 a.m. Brisbane time. I was literally about to sleep. I was literally about to go to bed. And then I start getting a bunch of phone calls, and I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? I'm thinking to myself, why am I getting phone calls at 1 a.m.? That's not a good sign when you get phone calls at 1 a.m. I thought I'd done something. I thought I was going to be in trouble with the police. I thought maybe somebody I love had been hurt. I was very worried. When you get a phone call at 1 a.m., you get very worried. And I look at WhatsApp, and my mates are all blowing up saying, Trump retweeted you. That is a crazy thing to see. And it is extraordinary. I still cannot believe it. Still getting goosebumps about it. Can you believe that the President of the United States somehow saw my posts and actually reposted it to Truth Social, and then called the Prime Minister of Australia, woke him up from bed, called him up, and started complaining about my posts. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? It's kind of crazy. I want to say thank you to user86v1l for becoming a member of the channel. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. I love it. Thank you guys for super chats and memberships. I appreciate it. Drew, since when did you join the conservative side? I'd say I've been outright right-wing for almost a year now. Yeah, 1 degree of separation. It's unbelievable. I still cannot believe it. And look, when I go to the US Embassy to try and do my interview for a business visa next month, I will put the Trump tweet at the top of my papers. And I'll say, please give me a business visa to come in for a month. I had the president's seal of approval. Do you believe in the sleeper cell meme? What do you mean by that? Do you mean that Iran has sleeper cells in the West? I think that's cope. I think that's massive cope. Woohoo, welcome, here's your cookie. Thank you, user86. I appreciate the fact that you became a member, man. I really appreciate it. Drew, didn't you say you were a lefty, lol, not concerned? Yeah, look, I was a lefty for a long time. I slowly broke out of my conditioning. There were a set of things that really pushed that along. Being personally victimized by crime, having multiple family members targeted with nighttime break-ins, family break-ins. That changes your view when it comes to tolerance of crime and disorder. Just growing alienation with far left cultural stances about being soft on criminals, being soft on Islamic terrorism, all these sorts of things, being soft on the Chinese government, all these things. Geopolitically, really just no longer agree with left-wing sort of position. I have like I'm just an outright pro-West supporter, Yes, we've got to do, Dingo, thank you for your comment. We do have to do a live stream soon. We do have to do a live stream. Let's do one this week, maybe. Let's do one this week. I want to do that, man. It'd be cool. Are you going to collab with Luca Conte to pay the council fine? I don't know what the guy is saying. Any idea how Trump even found your tweet? Like, did the algorithm just show it to him? So, look, I still don't know, but I got a message from somebody afterwards who is an Australian who lives in America, And they told me that they sent it to somebody at the White House who then sent it to Trump. And again, I can't prove that. I can't confirm that. I'm not going to name any names because I have to keep the confidentiality of the source. I think it's plausible. Like I looked at the person's account, and I saw that they had some people in the White House following them. So it seems that it went through two people to Trump somehow. It went through somebody who's following me. They sent it to a White House official who then sent it to Trump. And I'm actually just still stunned. I still cannot even believe it. It's crazy. And I just want to say while we're here, man, I love Cyberpunk Dingo's content. He's a massive critic of Islamic extremism in Australia. He's a very brave guy. The jihadists have been threatening him for a long time and really want to kill this guy because he had the temerity and the courage to stand up to Islamism and Islamic extremism, especially when it comes to the terror cells that exist in Western Sydney. So I want to commend Dingo on his great patriotism. I think he's a great Australian patriot. I love that guy. Someone says, come to New Zealand, Habibi. I will. I have to go to New Zealand because I think it's horrible that the left-wing extremism when it comes to race is far more advanced in New Zealand than it is in Australia. I think, it's far more advanced, this kind of race communist ideology. It's a very advanced thing in New Zealand. They sort of really strongly break from the West geopolitically. They make a big show and dance of not letting US ships dock in their ports, all these things. And the Kiwis are very advanced when it comes to that race communist decolonial ideology. It's very sad. I think they're much more far left on a lot of these things. I mean, men, they do not even have an air force. The Labour Prime Minister, Helen Clark, the Labour Prime Minister of New Zealand, dismantled the New Zealand Air Force. The New Zealand fighter jets, she literally mothballed them all and they got rid of them all. It's crazy. New Zealand does not even have an air force. Can you believe it? That's crazy. So it's actually, man, it's so sad. Like, New Zealand is, I think, one of the worst case scenarios for Australia. One of the worst case scenarios for Australia because they have all the same problems with mass migration, mass cultural change, losing their national identity. They have all those problems, but they also have much more, much stronger sort of Maori separatism, sort of like Maori race communist separatism. That's way stronger there. The left really weaponized that there. And just geopolitically, they're so bad. Like, they completely broke with the US over just, like the Rainbow Warrior shit. And realistically, did France do anything wrong with the Rainbow Warrior? I have to say, it was Greenpeace. And Greenpeace at the time was a cutout of Soviet intelligence. They were literally just harassing the French because they didn't want the French to have an independent nuclear deterrent because they wanted the Soviet Union to win the Cold War. So, look, it's sad that somebody died. I don't endorse killing anyone. Of course, I don't endorse violence. But had they just blown up the Rainbow Warrior with no one injured, that would have been perfect. That would have been perfect to me. It was a communist agitprop slop. It was communist agitprop, literally just designed to try and fuck over France, fuck over the West in the Cold War. That was what Greenpeace was doing. They were cutouts for Soviet intelligence. It's pretty obvious. Think about it. This whole denuclear movement in the West. Who has benefited from that? The only people who benefited from that were the Russians, because Europe is no longer energy sovereign. Germany shut down all their power plants, and as a result, now they import. Now they're fucked. They had to import so much gas from Russia. They had to import so much oil from Russia. So it's just a disaster. The degrowth, anti-nuclear movement in the West for a long time has been a cutout of Soviet and Russian intelligence. And that's why I'm just saying I don't care that the French tried to blow up the Rainbow Warrior. I do think it's sad that the photographer died. I don't endorse killing anyone. That said, the Rainbow Warrior was just communist agitprop slop, a cutout for Soviet intelligence in the Cold War. They wanted to just undermine the West. It's a real shame that New Zealand decided in the aftermath of that to just go full race communism and just completely break off from the US, break off from the US, from France, all this stuff. Great comment here by Inquisitor Magnus. Merkel shut down Germany's nuclear plants. Merkel was an Aussie communist young pioneer in East Germany at the same time Putin was stationed there in the KGB. Yeah, that's fucked. She was a communist member in East Germany. That should have been held against her. I hate this bullshit that, oh wow, people should be allowed to change. Did she even change? She was literally a member of the communist Young Pioneers in East Germany, and then her two major actions while in government, which massively undermined German democracy, German geopolitics, Germany's geopolitical position, German energy, the German economy, German national identity, all these things, throwing the borders of the country open, and at the same time closing every single nuclear plant in Germany to make Germany dependent on Russian gas and oil. So really, if you look at Merkel's policies, would there have been a single difference if she had been a Soviet psyop the whole time? If Merkel had really been, like, imagine, entertain this for a second. If Merkel had been, a Soviet intelligent, deep state intelligence agent, would she have done anything different in office? Did you know they have a TV show about Merkel? It's hilarious. She's a demented crime detective. Yeah, what's the go with that? I haven't looked into that fully, but tell me more. But essentially, yeah, I think with Merkel it's very interesting. Think about it. Had she been like this sort of Soviet communist deep state asset the entire time, would she have done anything differently in office? Throw open the borders of the country, create this massive sort of social, cultural crisis because you've completely dissolved the borders of the country, while also creating an energy crisis by shutting down all nuclear power and making yourself completely dependent on Russian gas, right in the lead up to the Ukraine war. What an absolute disaster. Merkel really should go down as one of the worst leaders in German history. And it's very funny that there's that famous post on Twitter where someone's like, Merkel is very lucky that the bar for worst German leader of history is very high. She is very lucky about that, because she did do a lot of damage. She did massive damage to Germany's integrity as a nation. Massive damage. Now, by the way, I think we've got 40 people watching live on YouTube. Guys, thank you so much if you're watching live on YouTube. Please leave a like if you're watching live on YouTube. Leave a like, and it helps us reach more people. Spam the comment section. If you're on YouTube, spam the comment section and leave a like. It helps us reach more people. YouTube then recommends us in the algorithm to a greater extent. By the way, guys, I'm not sure if you can tell, but I'm trying very hard to speak as much as I can today, because I know in previous streams there's been a problem where sometimes there's a lot of dead air. I'm just scrolling on Twitter. I'm trying very hard not to do that. That's why I haven't even put my Twitter up right now. I'm just speaking into the void straight with no notes. We're practicing. I hate the guy Nick Fuentes, but he is a generational broadcasting talent, I have to say, and I have to get to that point where you can just speak completely without any notes for hours at a time with no problems. A lot of people say fix the mic. I'm sorry about the mic situation, guys. I have no idea what the problem is. Drew, what's the political leaning like at UQ? Is it very communist and woke? And if so, how do you deal with them? It is a very far left place. There's a Trotskyist cult on campus. They're very feral. The social alternative Trotskyist cult, they are extremely feral on campus at the University of Queensland. It's unhinged. They used to go around basically boasting that they would have all my conservative right-wing friends shot when they have their fantasy revolution. They used to go around boasting about that. That is the social alternative Trotskyist cult group. And it's very funny. Today, the leader of the communist social alternative Trotskyist front group, he got arrested in Queensland. It was very funny. It was actually amazing. He was arrested by Queensland police. I'll get this up. Hang on. Let me put this on the screen for people. Drew, the audio doesn't sound like it's coming from that mic. You might be using your computer mic by accident. Hire me for your audio, Habibi. Yeah, man. Okay, I'll reach out to me on Twitter, man. Let's talk on Twitter, and we'll work it out. Is this better potentially? Please let me know. Is this better? Drew, you should get a green screen Fuentes set up, suit and all. Yeah. Look, I don't like Fuentes. I don't like Fuentes' politics. I don't like it. However, hang on. How's this, guys? Is the audio better? Is the audio better? Please let me know. Better but quiet. How's this now? How's this now? Someone says no. Oh, other people are saying yes. So some people are. Someone said worse. Other people are saying better. It's very difficult. Very quiet. How's this? Is this better? Louder but better. Is this better? Please let me know. Please let me know. Raise the volume. Okay. How's this, guys? Testing. This is the Drew Pavlou Show, episode 118. No echo, too quiet. Is it? Yeah, better now. Okay. People are saying it's better. People are saying it's better. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your help. The audio is apparently a lot better now. Thank you. Thank you so much. Finally. Okay. Thank you, guys. Listen. Thank you, everyone who was watching when the audio was shit. I'm happy that you guys stayed along. Thank you so much. Thank you for staying despite the audio being shit. We've now improved it. It's a lot better. Thank you, guys. We've got, I believe we've got 45 people watching live on YouTube. 48 now. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a like, guys. Leave a like, comment, spam the comments. YouTube recommends us to more people. It's very important. And if you're on Twitter, consider going through to the YouTube. It's a lot better viewing experience overall. There's a lot of comments here that there are a lot of comments here that I want to respond to. I'll discuss the UQ stuff. Do you get harassed on campus as your profile grows? Yeah, I do actually. Like, listen, last week I was walking through the city in Brisbane and a leftist guy stuck his phone in my face as I was walking and just started filming me as I was walking. Like he was some kind of paparazzi thing. That was strange. So I am actually getting like literally harassed in real life now, which is very strange to experience. I have been getting harassed in real life. Okay, listen, I will address the Joel Davis thing. Listen, it's very difficult because I hate this man. I hate this man because when I debated Joel Davis, in the aftermath, people sent rape threats and death threats to my girlfriend and my mother. That is what happened when I debated Joel Davis and the NSN, and Joel encouraged that on his Telegram. Joel encouraged the death and rape threats on his Telegram. He posted it all to his Telegram. He was encouraging people to harass my mum, my sister, my mum, and they did it to my girlfriend. Not my sister, sorry, that was an accident. So, listen, I debated Joel Davis on the Elijah Schaffer show. In the aftermath, they doxed my GF, my mum, sent rape threats, sent death threats. They even got stuff in real life. They even got NSN guys sending them stuff in real life. Okay, so there's the intro to that. Okay, obviously, I hate Joel for that. I think it's a disgusting thing to do that to somebody's personal loved ones. Do I think that Joel should currently be in, what is it? What's he in right now? He's in solitary confinement. That is pretty insane that he's in solitary confinement. I think he's a horrible person. I really hate what he did to my girlfriend and my mum. I hate his ideology. I do think it is insane that he is in solitary confinement after 5 months. 5 months of solitary confinement is pretty insane. That's, to my knowledge, a lot harsher than a lot of jihadists have got in Australia. Like, look, there's a big problem when Wissam Haddad, the leader of ISIS in Australia, is literally walking the streets with zero problems whatsoever. And somehow that's allowed to happen. There's a lot of jihadists that are allowed to like literally run around wild. And then, yeah, they're just allowed. This is a two-tier legal system. It is a two-tier legal system. Listen, I think Joel Davis is a terrible, hateful person. I think he's evil in many ways. I think what he did to my family members is evil, and I will never forgive him for that. Do I think he should currently be tortured in solitary confinement? That is a pretty crazy thing, that he's basically in worse conditions than the Bondi shooter. I do not know if it's pretty crazy. You have to say it is pretty crazy, obviously, that he is in worse conditions than the Bondi shooter. So the Bondi shooter apparently has more access to outdoor yard facilities. Apparently, he immediately got access to a Quran, whereas apparently Joel Davis was denied access to a Bible for a long time. Look, I hope that Joel Davis can move away from previous evil ideologies. I hope that he can read the Bible in prison. I hope that he can see the light and become a better person. I won't forgive him for how he treated my mother and my girlfriend and my family members. I won't forgive him for that. I hate the guy, his ideology right now. I do think 5 months of solitary confinement is fucking unhinged, to be honest. That is pretty obvious. And it's pretty crazy because it makes me think that the Australian government might try to do that to me, even though I'm like literally explicitly against Nazis. I hate Nazism. I hate the National Social Network. I hate the NSN. I've always been on the record against them. But seeing them put somebody like Joel Davis in solitary confinement for like 6 months does make me concerned that they're just going to do that to potentially just random right-wing influencers like even Drew. Even though like I'm literally like, if you look at my politics, they're actually very moderate. So it's pretty unhinged. Look, it's pretty crazy. I do think it's an unhinged that he apparently has worse conditions than the Bondi shooter. Like, I think the Bondi shooter should basically have the worst conditions in Australia, but apparently that's not the case. Apparently Joel has worse conditions than him. And again, I've said it a million times. I've literally said it over and over and over again. I hate Joel Davis. I hate what he stands for. I hate his political ideology. And I don't forgive him for how he treated my family and friends. But 5 months in solitary confinement is pretty unhinged. And look, maybe when he's in prison, he can reflect and read the Bible. I hope that he can go away from Nazism towards Christianity, because Nazism is a sick ideology. So yeah, look, that's my comment on the matter. I think that's pretty fair what I've said. I said that I hate Joel Davis. I hate his ideology. I think 5 months solitary confinement is pretty unhinged. And I think it is a scary idea that they could potentially do that to me, even though I'm like literally like, I'm way to the left of Joel Davis, obviously. Like, I'm really against Nazism. I'm really against anti-Semitism. I'm really against like actual explicit hatred against people based on like just I don't like people being hated for skin color and for things that they have no control over. I hate jihadists who willingly embrace like an actual radical Islamic extremist ideology. I hate communists who willingly embrace a radical extremist ideology. I hate Nazis who embrace a radical extremist ideology. But I oppose hatred towards people based on characteristics that they do not control. I hate people based on the ideologies that they espouse rather than based on characteristics that they do not control. And so, yes, it's obvious that I hate what Joel Davis stands for. 6 months in solitary confinement is pretty unhinged. And I think that's pretty obvious. Because, like, let's just be honest. Like, Wissam Haddad, the ISIS guy, like, this guy who literally radicalized the Bondi shooter, he basically has the blood of 15 people on his hands. Wissam Haddad. 15 people were killed as a result of the radicalization of Naveed Akram, which was done by Wissam Haddad. And look, it's pretty crazy that Wissam Haddad is walking around freely. And Joel Davis is in solitary confinement. I hate what Joel Davis stands for. I hate his ideology. I hate how he treated my family. It's unhinged that Wissam Haddad is walking free, though. I think that's pretty obvious. Like, the government obviously went really, really hard against the NSN. And again, fully hate the NSN. I've literally said that 100 times in this stream. Fully hate the NSN. But it is pretty unhinged that they went harder against the NSN than they went against literal jihadists who killed 15 people at Bondi. Someone said, Drew, are you still in the gym? I am still in the gym. I haven't gone for 2 weeks, so I gotta admit, I gotta go back. Anyway, I might bring on Monica to discuss this all. I might bring on Monica. Just in general, we'll have a discussion. Where is this? Hang on. I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? Because I think you can hate Nazism and still say that, like, 6 months solitary confinement for social media posts is unhinged. Monica, I'm going to send you a link to join over Twitter. Check your Twitter DMs and I'll send you the link to the StreamYard. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to find your Twitter. It's quite frankly, isn't it? Quite frankly. Monica, what's your @ handle? Sorry, I'm trying to find it. Can you just add your @ handle in the chat and I'll try find you and then I'll send you the DM of the StreamYard link. Okay, quite frankly. AU. Okay. So Drunken Aussie, look, the thing is, I don't believe he's been given, like, the judge didn't sentence him. I don't think he's been, like, formally sentenced to solitary confinement. I think the reason why he's in solitary confinement is that the prison system in New South Wales argues that he's a risk from other prisoners because other prisoners may kill him because he is a neo-Nazi. I mean, that makes sense. That said, it is pretty unhinged that he is, like, literally in stricter conditions than the Bondi shooter who killed 15 people. Again, said it a million times, I fucking despise Joel and what he stands for. Monica is a up-and-coming content creator, a young conservative female voice in Australia. She's going to join the chat. I've sent her the StreamYard link. I think she can just literally log in from that. And we can have like a maybe half-hour chat or something like that before I probably wrap things up tonight. We've had 45 people watching live. Osnian says, Monica, I am Drew Pelly's sound guy. No, he's not actually my sound guy, but that is pretty funny. Yeah, I think, yes, that is right, Drunken Aussie. It is technically protected custody. That said, it is de facto solitary confinement because he's like literally not allowed to talk to anybody at all. Monica, how are you?
Hello.
Hello, how are you going? How are you going?
I feel like
thank
such
you
a
for
millennial.
No, thank you for joining. It's good that you're on the stream. Because I put out a call earlier to see who may want to join the stream, and Monica reached out to me. Monica is starting a new podcast soon, and I'll be going on her podcast next week to discuss the NDIS and stuff. But it's good to have you here, Monica. Let's start with that very spicy question. Do you think it's crazy that I don't know? What are your thoughts? Because look, we both despise neo-Nazism. We both despise Joel Davis's ideology. Do you think it is crazy though the 6 months of solitary confinement thing? That is pretty unhinged, I think.
Yeah, I think so. The only caveat I would have is if he was only in there because he is at risk of being murdered by other people and they're doing it for safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the thing.
I pray for him, but
yeah.
I do think that it's not ideal that he's in solitary confinement. And as you say, the Bondi shooter is, not.
It is pretty crazy because apparently they denied him access to a Bible for like 2 months, but apparently Naveed Akram was given a Quran like the second he asked for it. And I actually just do not understand why we would give a Quran to Naveed Akram after he literally shot 15 people. Like, what is actually the benefit to the country of giving Naveed Akram a personal Quran to consult in prison? I actually don't know. Like, why would we do that as a country? It literally doesn't even make sense to me.
I mean, please. It's suicide.
Like, he's a literal ISIS member. Like, he's a literal ISIS member. He believes that this text informs him why he should have killed the 15 people. We do know that, of course, not all Muslims believe in that psychotic extremist ideology. But this guy, Naveed Akram, clearly believes, that the holy text informs his actions. So why would we give him the holy text? And another point here by Matt N420, I believe an imam also visited on his request. So they also got him an imam straight away, which is actually just amazing. Wow. Like they immediately got him an imam.
No, it's just crazy. I mean, we've lost our minds, haven't we? No one voted for this. No one wants this. And it is insane that we do things like that. And that's not to say anything about what's his name, Joel. Obviously they're all assholes. But why are you giving someone a text to remind them, basically, as they read it, oh, hey, I remember why I did this, and I feel, more strongly.
Literal ISIS. Look, that's just the thing that I don't personally understand, Monica. Again, as I've said like 100 times on the call tonight, I despise Joel Davis and his ideology. I have personal reason to do that because he like literally doxed my family members and encouraged rape and death threats against them. So unhinged, horrible guy, horrible guy. He had like a reign of terror going on. That said, though, I do genuinely wonder why there is this like harsher level of treatment in the prison towards Joel versus Naveed Akram, who literally killed 15 people. Like, I just don't understand that part in particular.
Well, okay, here's my theory. I think that Albo and Labour are painted as soft on crime.
Yeah.
1. 2, everyone hates Nazis, obviously.
Yeah.
And you and I in that camp, we don't like this person, and he doesn't speak for anyone that I know or like in Australia. Yeah. And so that's a quick win that the Labor Party can have, because
that's true. I think that's how they see it.
It's nothing. Whereas there will be some people who, even if they don't subscribe to exactly Naveed, whatever his name, the Bondi shooter, even if they don't support his actions, they would probably support his right to the same religious text that they share. So there's a level of sympathy,
Monica, can you imagine? So if it got out that they had, imagine if it had got out that they had denied a Quran to Naveed Akram and they had denied him access to an imam. All the so-called moderate imams, all the so-called moderate Muslim organizations, the National Imams Council and stuff like that, they would have all gone ballistic. They would have gone psychotic. Like, can you imagine, like in Western Sydney, they would have been blowing up the electorate offices of Tony Burke and Jason Clare, these Labor MPs who have, very large constituencies of Islamists in Western Sydney. Like, they would have been saying, like, while we disagree with what he did, killing 15 people, like, you cannot violate his religious freedom rights to have a Quran. I think that's literally like the reality here. That's why they were so keen to immediately get him, get him a Quran, get him access to an imam, even after he slaughtered 15 people.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like, I mean, I support free speech and he should be able to read religious texts that he wants to read, but like the same rights should be afforded to other people. And if the neo-Nazi wanted a Bible, okay, let him have a Bible as well.
I think I'm harsher than you, Monica. Like, I would just straight up say, no, I'm not going to give Naveed Akram a Quran after he kills 15 people in the name of Islamic terrorism. Like, that's just straight up me. Like, I know that there's no legal basis for that. I know that people say that's mean or whatever. But like, if I was in power, I would change the law to be like, sorry, we're not going to give the Quran to specifically Islamic terrorists in prisons. Like guys who literally kill people in the name of Islamic terrorism.
Well, Drew, sometimes I think you have hints of Western imperialism, to say the least. And I love that for you. And as my grandfather said, he's no longer with us, a benevolent dictatorship is the best form of government. And so like, look, that could be your pathway.
I'm not endorsing that. I'm not endorsing that. I still believe in democracy. I do like Lee Kuan Yew. I have to say. What are some other interesting things that we can discuss while we're here today? Is there anything in the news that is bothering you right now? What's going on in Australia? I mean, we had the changeover of Matt Canavan as the leader of the Nats now. That's interesting. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I'm a fan of Matt. And I
like Matt. I like him.
Where are people dialing in from? Like, are people mostly from Australia, America? Like, we can talk about different things that are interesting.
I mean, look. I think it actually is quite interesting. It's a bit of a global audience. Like, I think maybe half. It's like half Australian, maybe half like people overseas. So, but I think we can discuss Australian politics because I live in Australia. I'm not going to be one of these social media content creators who I don't want to be Ian Miles Chong, for example, where I just pretend I don't live in Malaysia. I do live in Australia. I do talk about Australian politics. So we should discuss. I think Matt Canavan. It is interesting.
Yeah, I think he's great. I'm a big fan. Anyone who's not aware, the National Party. So there's two kind of parties. Two major groups in the Australian Parliament at the moment. One is the Labor Party and they're the lefties. And then one is the coalition government. Like when it's a government, it's a government. Otherwise, it's a coalition party. So it's a mix of the Liberal Party and the National Party. And the National Party had a leadership spill and Matt Canavan came out on top. And he is definitely, what do you think, Drew? I think he's definitely the most based person in Parliament other than perhaps Andrew Hastie. And
look on the
communicator.
Yeah, look, on the right-wing side of politics in Australia, he is definitely like the kind of like most sort of like based, you could use that word, sort of guy who's within the centre-right grouping. So like within either sort of like the Liberal or the National Party, he's probably the most based guy, I would say. Maybe alongside Hastie. It's such a big move from them. It'll be interesting. We have been watching, so we can explain a bit to international viewers. There has been this just like complete collapse in the National Party vote over the past few months. Liberal Party vote is collapsing as well. So it might be too late for them. They might already be in this death spiral that they just cannot get out of. I wonder, do you think it can stop voters going to One Nation?
Yeah, look, Drew, I think it's a really good question. I mean, the lay of the land here, if people are familiar with what's happening in Britain, Australia is like a couple of years behind Britain, and their Conservative Party is one of those like pre-Trump, pre-vibe shift, not new right, like globalist nothing parties, right? That they just do nothing, say nothing, and don't really believe in anything.
I explained to it when I talk to Americans about this, I try to tell them that like, especially like under Susan Ley, the Liberal Party in Australia was essentially like Jeb Bush style. Like it was like if Jeb Bush was still running the Republican Party. Yeah. That's like the equivalent, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
It's so bad. And so they have not, like, I wrote a little article, which I should publish on my Substack now that I've got a Substack.
That's excellent.
I was in DC at the end of last year, there's basically this international convention called the International Democracy Union. And it's a coalition, it's a coalition, I won't use that word. It's a group of parties from across the Western world who get together and talk about like electoral strategies, like, hey, this worked well here, and here are our insights here, blah, blah, blah. And so the Liberal Party, the Tories, the Republicans, whoever the party is in Canada, you know, they all sort of get together. And there was one person from the Trump administration there, because the whole thing was like being in a time capsule and visiting the late 1990s. Like, it was Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan are the gods, you know, we're slaves to the free markets. And it was a disaster. And so any Americans on the call listening are very lucky that they have undergone the Trump-led vibe shift. Same if there are any Hungarians, shout out to them, extremely based.
Well, the thing is, I have to say one thing, Monica, and we don't have to get into this today. Probably the one holdout area for me, like, look, I'm a big fan of national conservatism and everything. Probably the one holdout area in my whole sort of like base shift is I don't like Orban. I don't like Orban. Primarily over the Ukraine stuff and a lot of allegations around corruption. But I think we don't necessarily have to go into the whole Ukraine thing now. But I do think you are right overall about, you know, the vibe shift in America, the vibe shift that is starting to take place in Britain, where I think realistically the Tory party is dead. They essentially have this big vibe shift taking place in Britain. I think we're starting very slowly to see that in Australia, very slowly.
Yeah. And can I make a point on One Nation?
Yeah.
So they're our, like, what would you call them, Drew? Far right?
These labels are so funny. Right? Yeah. Okay. This is the funny thing, right, Monica? Because like, when people say the term far right, I think of the NSN. I think of like literally the neo-Nazis, like literally, literally Joel Davis. Like, that's what I think of as far right. And if you compare Pauline to the NSN, like, Pauline is like pro-Israel, and so all the far right guys in Australia hate Pauline because they think they call her like a Zog bot and shit like that. Yeah. And look, like, I don't know, what's the most far right thing about it? I mean, she said that there's no such thing as a good Muslim. I would not have framed it in those words. Like, I think
that was subpar, I will say.
Yeah, I think what Pauline Hanson probably meant there is she was probably trying to say that at the moment, it's unfortunate that the moderates within Islam are very much sort of sidelined by more extremist elements and people who are apologists towards the more extremist elements. I think you can make that intellectual case that unfortunately the moderates are few and far between and they are very sidelined in the discourse. That's certainly how I would have expressed it. I think the way that she said it, where she just said there's literally no, like, obviously that's stupid. Look, I know in my personal life, I know Muslims who are good-hearted people. I know that in my personal life. So obviously, like, That's why I personally always try to draw a distinction between, political Islam, Islamism, and just random Muslims, who
totally,
as we both know, there are a lot of people who are Christian who are essentially really only Christian in name only. Like they might go to Easter once a year, they might go to Christmas mass once a year. There are a lot of people who might be Muslim more in name only. People who are more chill about it, more secular. I don't really have a problem with anyone who's secular. I know kind-hearted secular people. The problem is obviously with political Islamism and political extremist Islam, which unfortunately I think is a big problem. And the sad thing is that the so-called moderate organizations in Australian politics for Islam, the National Imams Council, et cetera, they literally carry water for the extremists. They carry water for literal Islamic extremists. Yeah. So that's the big problem. That's the big problem.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually think, so I have a slightly different perspective on this, I think, and that is that most Muslims in Australia are fundamentally good people who want to participate in Australian life. I don't know that for a fact, right? Because I don't know all that many Muslims, to be perfectly honest with you. But I have to assume that's the case. And I think the data suggests that there's only been one Islamist terrorist attack in Australia, that's it. Two. Okay, so two.
There's been I think there's been a couple. There was one, for example, in Sydney where a young ISIS-affiliated teenager shot a police officer. That it's often not seen as a terrorist attack, but it kind of is. There was the stabbing. There was the stabbing of Bishop Mario Emanuel, which really should be seen as a terrorist attack as well.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
But the point I was going to make was, I actually think whatever that percentage is of non-extreme Muslims, and I think it's high, I actually think we're doing them a huge disservice as a community by letting it fly, all this BS that comes from the extremists, and allowing them to behave in this outrageous way and give all these insane lectures and sermons, or what's the Muslim version of a sermon? I'm not sure, but you know what I'm saying. That's actually
I agree with you on that.
We should hold people to a higher standard, because
of course,
other people.
Yeah. Look, I 100% agree with you there. And look, I see this comment by Cyberpunk Dingo, and I actually think he's right here. I personally think that the marker of a Muslim person who I can say is a good person, somebody who I can say is actually a humane person, they have to be able to say that someone can leave Islam without being killed. And unfortunately, if you look at, for example, Egypt, in Egypt, I think the polling shows that more than 90% of Muslims in Egypt believe that apostasy should face the death penalty. That's a horrific statistic. So, for me, I'm only prepared to say somebody is a good person if they're willing to say that somebody who decides to leave the faith of Islam should not be killed. And unfortunately, unfortunately, if you polled that in Australia, you would probably still have about maybe as high as 30% in the Muslim community outright saying that they think apostates should be killed. I think that's that's my guess. I think we should test it. What I would really like to see, I'd like to see a polling company in Australia properly try to poll Muslim attitudes within Muslim Australia, and I think we should know what percentage of the Muslim community in Australia believe that apostasy should carry the death penalty. What percentage? Yeah, and look, telling you the truth, Monica, I think sadly that the statistic would be far higher than we would like to see. I think it'd be far more damning and scary than people would be willing to admit. I think, if you talk to Albanese and Penny Wong, they'd go out there and say, the vast majority are moderate and against extremism. I think you would see at the very least, a substantial minority who would agree with capital punishment for apostasy.
Right. And I think it's a good litmus test, actually, because it goes to kind of a pretty core Western perspective, which is that you have a soul and you have autonomy over that soul and your beliefs and conscience. So I think that's a good litmus test. I don't know. I'm an optimist, so I hope that it's a small percentage. And in my daily life, I've never personally encountered it as an issue, but obviously, the text is not great. To say the least.
Look, there are statistics that I often point to that are really, really scary, where it's essentially in the early 2010s, 1 in 100 young Muslim men of military fighting age in the southwestern suburbs of Sydney joined ISIS. And like, that is crazy. Like,
yeah, you did that.
I keep on pointing this out to people because, and I've had people go like, oh, 1%, that's not a problem. Like, who cares? It's 1%. It's like, dude, like, we shut down all of society. We went into full national lockdown for like 1% transmission rate during COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if 1% of young Muslim men in Australia were literally joining ISIS in parts of Sydney, that is like a national catastrophe. That is like literally a massive national catastrophe. Yeah. And like, and I think there's like sort of like literature in social studies that essentially find, like, there's basically social science literature that basically finds like, when you look at an insurgency, like say 1% or 2% of a male community is active in an insurgency, like active militants, like for that. So essentially there's like there's like social studies literature that essentially finds that, you know, if you're looking at an insurgency, like for example, the Troubles in Northern Ireland, where like maybe about like 2% of all men were actually actively engaged in militant paramilitary activity, etc. Like for that to take place though, like for that 2% to like literally do what they do, you have to have far broader kind of like social sympathies in the population. So basically like, what you're looking at is if 1% of a community actively join a militant insurgency, like they're actual soldiers in an insurgency, what you're looking at is at least 30-40% of the community in that particular. Yeah, exactly. And so that was essentially what you saw in Northern Ireland. Like, so for 2% of the men to be involved in paramilitary activity, you had to basically have like half the community actively like sympathetic to the IRA. And I think it was similar with the Basque insurgency in Spain as well. So yeah, it's pretty disturbing. Like I think it's actually pretty stunning that nobody thought to even look into that in Australia. Like, yeah. Firstly, no one thought to actually work out, okay, what's the true denominator? Like, what's the true, you know, statistic for percentage of young men joining ISIS in these parts of Sydney? No one actually decided to look into that. I had to use open source data to try and figure that out.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, no one thought, okay, let's try and work out the broader part of the community that is sympathetic to the people who are joining.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. Hey, can I make a comment on Egypt?
Yeah, please. Yeah, please.
Our mutual friend, who was sort of the main person who introduced us, who you sort of sometimes stay with in Sydney. I'm from Sydney, by the way, Drew's from Brisbane.
Yeah.
He was saying, I think it was him, he was saying that he was talking to someone from Egypt about the guy who did the stabbing of the that led to the 2 deaths of the Jews outside the synagogue in Manchester in Britain.
Oh, yeah. The guy, that was the infamous terrorist who was literally called Jihad. His name was Jihad al-Shami. Like, that was a good one. That was a great one. Like, yeah. Oh my God, you can't even make it up. Yeah. Right. My God. So yeah.
He was saying that he spoke to someone with Egyptian background or from Egypt or had some knowledge, like quite deep knowledge of Egypt. And he said, what's with the name Jihad? Like, is that a bit, you know, how you going in Egypt? Because certainly like it seems like a bit of a how you going name. And he was like, oh yeah, no, like that would in Egypt that people would be like, oh God, like that's not right. It's not like Mohammed or John or, you know.
It's kind of stunning, right? I mean, it's again, look, I don't want to be too mean here because it is literally the guy's name. He can't help it. But there is like literally, I think it's the Justice Minister at a state level in New South Wales, Jihad. His literal name is Jihad. You know who I'm talking about? Do you know that there's let me get his actual thing up. Jihad state MP. There is literally a state. I'm not even kidding, guys. I'm going to bring this up on the screen. And I'm not trying to be mean because like I get that it's his name and he can't help it. But yeah, I'm going to bring this up 1 second. Justice. Yeah, wait, 1 second. I'm going to bring this up on the screen because I think people need to see this. It is very interesting. So there is a Labor state politician in New South Wales called Jihad, and he is the member for Bankstown, which is, I think, the area that covers Lakemba, which is like the area that had 1 in 100 young men join ISIS, and he is the Minister for Youth Justice. And again, like I don't want to be like too mean here because like it is literally his name. I get that he can't I get that he can't change it, but I think that's a good point. Like our mutual friend made that point that like in Egypt, if somebody named, like in Egypt, which is a Muslim society, if you named a child Jihad, you would probably be seen as pretty fanatical. You would probably be seen as very fundamentalist. Yeah. And like let's not forget, like, you know, like Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, like he was like, have you seen that footage of Gamal Abdel Nasser basically mocking like the idea that all Egyptian women should be in hijab? Like, and this was in like the 60s, you know, this was like the leader of Egypt in the 60s. Like, so the interesting thing is, you know, like obviously there's a full spectrum of belief across the Middle East and across the Muslim world. And it's pretty interesting that I think variants in Western Sydney are probably more conservative than you know, variants literally in some parts of the Middle East. And again, I don't think Jihad Al-Dib, the state Labor MP in New South Wales, I don't think he personally is radical. I don't think there's any. I've got nothing against him personally, of course. Yeah. He can't change his name. I feel bad for him. But it is very interesting that his parents chose that name, because if a parent chose that name in a Muslim country like Egypt, a lot of people in polite society in Egypt would think that's quite strange.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Egypt maybe is a bad country to make the point that I'm about to make. The Muslim Brotherhood is banned. Hizb ut-Tahrir is banned in
and based Egypt for that. Based Egypt for that, like
worlds in the Muslim world, right? And we don't ban them here. Like, we're like, no, all good, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's the amazing thing.
We have radical free speech.
I know, yeah. So we did ban Hizb ut-Tahrir like I think 2 weeks ago, but it took like 25 years. People were literally calling for them to be banned 25, 30 years ago, because like these guys literally believe in reintroducing slavery. They believe in the establishment of a global caliphate where all non-Muslims would be subordinate legal status, etc. Like, it's just unhinged. And these guys were just allowed to operate freely in Australia for 25 years, no problems. And as you say, like, there is so much greater scope for political Islamist organizing in Australia and in Britain and stuff like that than there is in Egypt or in the UAE or in Saudi Arabia. There was a really funny post where there was like a British Muslim guy who went to Saudi Arabia, and he had like a Palestine flag on him, and they took it off him at the gate at the airport. And he was saying like, you know, this land has fallen to the kuffars, the unbelievers and stuff like that. And it's like, no, it's just like you literally don't get the same ability to do political Islamist organizing in Gulf Arab countries or in a lot of countries in the Middle East. They just don't let you do that.
Yeah.
It's actually crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like, honestly, the Muslim Brotherhood should be banned in Australia, of course. Hizb ut-Tahrir should be banned, of course. And like, I think political Islamism attempts to bring Islam into, you know, democratic Australian elections, etc., that needs to be repressed.
Well, I mean, and then we go down the sectarian route, don't we? And I must say, just quickly, you've got some very good Arabic pronunciation. Well done.
No, not at all. Not at all. But look, it is funny because when I started getting really interested in Islamism and stuff like that, I didn't want to just be like a slop poster about it. I didn't want to just sound like, you know, average, because there are a lot of right-wingers who their criticism of Islam is not nuanced or sophisticated, and I didn't want it to be like that. Yeah. So I literally went to the library and I like picked up all these books on the Muslim Brotherhood and Hizb ut-Tahrir and all these sorts of things. Actually, I've got a really interesting one. Let me show you this 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing it. And I'm one of the ones... Oh, you've got it?
Oh, shit. 1 second. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Not well, but I think it's because you're away from the mic.
Oh, hang on. Fuck. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, hang on.
We can't
I think I might have stuffed.
You can't hear us. Is that right? While you're getting connected.
Sorry about this, guys. Hopefully, yeah. Okay, I've got it fixed. Can you hear it? Okay, cool. Okay, sorry about that. I'll show you quickly what I got. So I bought these in Lakemba. So I went to the Islamic bookstore and I found a book. At the Islamic.
Lakemba.
Yeah, I found a book at the Islamic bookstore called False Caliphate, a critical analysis of Hizb ut-Tahrir's political and creedal views. So it's interesting. Like, I literally got a book criticizing Hizb ut-Tahrir from an Islamic bookstore in Lakemba. Who would have thought? At the same time, though, I also got this book from the same bookstore in Lakemba, Book of the End, Great Trials and Tribulations, which is like kind of like a book of sort of like Islamic apocalyptic eschatology. And it contains the famous verse, obviously, which is... I always love to point this verse out to people because it's so unhinged. It literally what does it go again? It says, in the end times, there will be a Jew hiding behind the Garkan tree, and the Jew will call out, "O Muslim, O believer, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him." So there's that unhinged verse, and it's in this book, that the unhinged verse, which is in this book that I bought from the Lakemba bookstore. And it's in a lot of books of sort of like Islamic apocalyptic end times sort of eschatology. And it essentially just says that in the end times, there will be like a racial war between Jews and Muslims, and you should go out and kill them all. And Wissam Haddad, the leader of ISIS in West Sydney, he was taken to court because he gave that exact sermon. And he was found to have, engaged in hate speech, although nothing actually happened to him. But it is unbelievable. I think it's amazing because, Albanese, he went to the Lakemba night markets the other day, and he was celebrating it, saying, "This is so beautiful, what a great day." And
great
everything.
Australian tradition.
Yeah, great Australian tradition, of course. The founding fathers of Australia, when they signed the Constitution of Australia back in 1901, they were thinking of Ramadan night markets in West Sydney, Lakemba, of course. But they he took a photo, like, for his video that he filmed at Ramadan night markets. He took a video right next to the Islamic bookstore where they were selling this book, which is talking about killing all the Jews in the end times. So yeah, it's just amazing. Hey, I can't even believe, like, the Prime Minister of Australia is sort of holding up Ramadan night markets as this great beautiful thing, and he's standing next to a bookstore, basically just selling like full on jihadist propaganda.
Crazy. The study that you did on Australia Day that said how many people Australians a happy Australia Day? Yeah. How many Labor Party politicians wished Australians a happy Australia Day?
Yes.
And the number was 28%. I was invited on Sky News on Sunday night on Jamie Rogers' show, which was cool. I'd never been on live TV
awesome.
before.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
So that was like kind of fun.
Nice.
And I gave that a
Oh shit! Has Monica potentially dropped off the call?
play 28%.
Oh, sorry, you there, Monica? It cut out a little bit.
No, that's fine. I was probably rambling. Maybe it was God telling me.
No. Can you say that again? Sorry, I'm interested.
So I made the point on Sky about how only 28% of Labor Party politicians wished Australians a happy Australia Day.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's crazy.
It's insane.
Crazy.
52% of them wished us happy Lunar New Year, whenever that was. I don't celebrate Lunar New Year. And 35% said happy Ramadan.
Look, here's the thing. Like, I actually like Lunar New Year. It's just like, why is it more celebrated than Australia Day?
It's like,
why is it more celebrated than Australia Day? It just doesn't make sense. Like, it truly is crazy. And I think according to my own study, like, there literally were more people celebrating Ramadan, more Australian Labor MPs and senators celebrating Ramadan than
it was 35%.
Than celebrated Australia Day. And it it just makes sense because, like,
I went and studied your work, Drew. In
thank you.
And
thank you.
It was 28, 35. It was 28 for Australia Day, 35 for Ramadan,
amazing.
And 52 for Lunar New Year. And it's like, what the hell are we doing?
That's just unbelievable. Hey, what an amazing stat! Like, look, Islam is like 3% of the Australian population. So, and I think what Christianity is probably like 40% of the Australian population. I think from memory, like, it was less than 10 Labor MPs and senators explicitly acknowledged, Lent. And so, like, Christianity, which is like 10
Lent
times the numbers.
Forget about Lent. Lent.
That didn't even. I think it was literally, literally single digits. Labor MPs and senators actually recognise that. It's just amazing because, like, Christianity has probably 10 times the numbers of Islam in Australia, but they deliberately ignore Christianity in favour of celebrating Ramadan. Like literally, what is the actual explanation for that? It's actually mental.
Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I don't know. This is probably the thing that I hate most about the modern Labor Party, just the fact that they are really sort of ashamed about the Australian national identity. And essentially they want to make the Australian national identity anybody but Australians, anybody but people who have like 10 generations in this country, essentially.
Yeah, 100%. And you and I are not in that category, right? But I think we're just as Australian as people who, came on the Endeavour, which is our version of the Mayflower, right? Like my mum was born in New Zealand, my dad was born in Botswana. Like I
didn't know that.
born
That's
here.
cool. I didn't know that actually.
Yeah. If you're from Africa, why are you white?
Yeah, epic. Yeah. That's great. That's great. You're indigenous to Africa, but
yeah, I'm African.
Yeah, right. That's epic. That's epic actually. I didn't realize that. But yeah, no. I mean, look again. My family obviously is Greek Cypriot origin, and it's fourth generation on my mum's side, third generation on my dad's side. And look, I was not part of the national story for Gallipoli. I was not part of the national story at the founding of Australia, etc. Fully acknowledge that. But I do believe that, the people who founded the country deserve a special, deserve special dues, deserve to be, honored, among the national, as part of the national project. Let's be honest that, Australia was founded with British institutions, and, British Anglo-Celtic culture was, the core dominant culture of Australia up until basically 10, 15 years ago. And we are massively changing the culture of the country. And listen, my family are Greek Cypriot, but I don't want Australia to be a Greek Cypriot country. I am very happy with the Australia that I was born with, which was a country that was predominantly, British cultural heritage, American culture, a country that was predominantly inspired and informed by, say, culture in America, Britain, Europe. And that's the country that I was born with. And I don't want Australia to be a Greek country. I don't want Australia to be a Cypriot country. I want the country that I was born into, that I was raised in. That's what I'm comfortable with. That's what I like. And I don't want the country to be, completely radically changed. I don't know why that is such a strange position, why it's seen as radical. And also, I think there are actually a lot of people from non-Anglo-Celtic backgrounds who agree with me. I think there are I think people would be surprised by how many, say, Vietnamese Australians who would like Australia to remain predominantly a Western country, the amount of people from, say, even a Chinese Australian background, even an Indian Australian background, different backgrounds who have come to this country because they like the fact that Australia was a Western country. They came to this country fully knowing that Australia was a Western country, and they like that, and they don't want to see it completely changed. There are a lot of people like that. There are a lot of migrants who actually have a more conservative approach to Australian national identity than, funnily enough, a lot of white Australian leftists have. Yeah. And I think that's very strange.
Because they left one place that had a distinct character, and they came to a different place which had a different distinct character, and they chose that.
Exactly. That's a choice.
This random economic zone with just a whole lot of total randoms from here, there, and everywhere with no story. It's ridiculous.
It's funny, we've got a comment here. Culture and ethnic demographics will always change whether you would try to do it or not. Australia is literally at no risk of becoming full Islamic Arab. I don't think either of us is saying that Australia is going to be a full Arab Islamic country. No one's saying that. We're just saying, but on the current trajectories of things, within about 20 years, European Australians will probably be less than 50% of the population, and there will be a whole range of different demographics, and there will be tensions because, there may be some Chinese Australians who want Australia to have a closer geopolitical relationship with China. There may be some Indian Australians who want to have a closer geopolitical relationship with India. There will be Middle Eastern Australians who want Australia to fundamentally reorient its policy on, the Middle East. And we already have seen that over the past 2-3 years where, you've had these massive rallies gripping the cities, or gripping the major thoroughfares of every major Australian city, basically every single weekend, where people have been, predominantly Arab migrants with communist leftists have basically been agitating that, Australia is a colony that must be dismantled, and we must, all this bullshit.
Then?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So look, we are already seeing the start of these tensions. I learned it the hard way when I decided to join in a Hong Kong protest at the University of Queensland alongside a bunch of Hong Kongers at UQ, and a bunch of Chinese international students decided to try and bash us up and surround us and attack us. And people forget this, but there were literally race riots in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, essentially, over the Chinese-Hong Kong conflict back in 2019. There were essentially race riots between Hong Kongers and Chinese, and Chinese ultranationalists. And we've basically had race riots over the past 2-3 years regarding the Israel-Palestine conflict. And we've had actually, funnily enough, we've actually had race riots between Sikh extremists and Hindu extremists, the Hindutva extremists versus the Khalistani extremists. There was literally a race riot in Melbourne where they were bashing each other up in the streets. So I just don't want people to import. I don't want people to import. Don't want people to import foreign conflicts to Australia. My family's Greek Cypriot, but you don't see me complaining and fighting outside the Turkish embassy every day. It's funny. My family is Greek Cypriot. I don't think I once attended a protest against Turkey in Australia ever. Like I'm not gluing myself to the gates of, the Turkish embassy and stuff like that. And I think that's the way it should be. I'm primarily an Australian. I don't agree with what the Turkish government has done in Cyprus, but I'm not going to glue myself to the Turkish embassy because I'm primarily an Australian. And I don't like that people come to this country and then they decide like, I'm going to do, Arab race war against Jews. Like, sorry, it's not even your country to do that. Like, fuck off. Go back to, if you want to do Arab race war against the Jews, like there are basically, 20 Arab countries that want to do race war against the Jews. You can go there and do it. Not in Australia.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah. Go find your people.
Yeah. Just I don't know. What have you been thinking the past 2 years, like 3 years? Just the race riots that we've been seeing in our cities, Monica. Like, it's unhinged. I can't even believe it. Yeah. Like the changes that we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, and it's scary because like you look at somewhere like Canada, and there was literally a political assassination of.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah. Like, I don't know exactly the details. I can't remember them now. But, like, there was literally some sectarian, like, hectic sectarian assassination.
It was
some Indian guy in Canada. And it's like the Canadians just couldn't do anything.
So I remember that. It was a Sikh extremist. The person was an extremist, I believe. But it is still unhinged that Indian intelligence decided that they were going to do an assassination on Canadian soil.
Yeah.
It's unhinged. It is unhinged. Look, I think it is. If you actually drill down into it, like the Canadian government has been really unhinged in giving safe harbor to Sikh extremists. Like the Sikh extremists have literally tried to bomb. They bombed an Air Canada flight and killed like 250 people. And the Canadian government has been very soft on Sikh extremists for a long time. Yeah, this was in like the 80s, I think, or the 90s. It's crazy. Like people don't even know about that one. Let me get that on the screen.
I've never heard of that.
Let me get that up on the screen quick. Air India Flight 182. So this was hang on, I'm gonna get this up on the screen really quickly. So Air India Flight 182. They essentially 1985. It was essentially a really, really horrific terror attack by Sikh separatist extremists. And they killed 329 people. Yeah, it's unhinged. So they're Khalistani separatists. So, like, I don't like the Khalistani separatists at all. I think it's unhinged that we have Khalistani separatist groups in Australia, which I think is fucking crazy. I think the Canadian government has been crazy in allowing like Khalistani separatist extremist groups to just operate with impunity. That said, though, the Indian government is not at liberty to just go and assassinate people on Canadian soil. Like that is unhinged. That is crazy. That is crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I think it's just really horrible that like all these Western countries just essentially transform themselves into 1,000 v 1,000 PvP like deathmatch zones. It's like everyone transforms themselves into like a Call of Duty deathmatch between like 1,000 warring bands. Like, why do we have to do that?
No, I don't want that. I do not want that.
Yeah, I don't want that.
This is why
Canada has been a disaster. I was just going to say, like, Canada has been so bad.
Canada's a disaster. I was talking to a friend of mine, very good friend of mine who lives in Toronto, a couple of days ago, and the topic of mass migration came up, and he was like, no, there are like literally parts of Toronto that you can't go to because it's a really, really heavy duty Indian population, and it's got the foreign conflict elements to it. Like it's not just
like the Khalistanis type extremist stuff. Yeah. I think people. I think this is really. I think the Sikh extremist thing is really slept on in the West. Like, I don't think anybody in the West. I don't think anyone in the West even knows what Khalistanis are, and I don't think they know. I don't think they realize that like within India there are like hundreds of different groups and hundreds of different like there's just like dozens of different groups and dozens of different languages and groups and subsects, etc., of religious groups and everything. I think that's another big problem, that a lot of Western countries just have a really stupid view of multiculturalism, where they just like think, all Indian people are the same, and it's like that is definitely not the case at all. Like there are going to be there's going to be conflict between Sikh extremists and Hindu extremists. That's just going to be a common thing in Canada now, because the Canadian government decided that all Indian people are the same, and like didn't even decide to vet anyone at all, didn't try to stop Sikh extremists doing their thing, all this stuff. It's just crazy. It's actually crazy.
Our mutual friend, that same one, actually said that there's this instance in British migration history where the Brits, maybe it was in the subdividing of between India and Pakistan when this happened, but like there was some community like way in the mountains or whatever that the Brits bombed and like kind of fucked up somehow, excuse my language. And in their wisdom, they were like, oh, we need some workers who know how to do like some specific mining task or something like that. And so they got all these Pakistani immigrants from this specific area that like absolutely hated British people. And
yes, I know this. Yeah.
Do you know
are you thinking of the Mirpuri thing in Pakistan with the dam? The dam. Yes. So essentially what happened there was the British government decided to do a foreign aid project where they would build this massive dam in Mirpur, Pakistan, which is a very poor part of Pakistan, very regional, very rural. Like a lot of educated urban Pakistanis basically see them as hillbillies. So it's like Pakistani version of hillbillies sort of thing. And as part of the project, it displaced a lot of communities because of the flooding. The dam caused flooding that displaced a lot of small villages. Right. And then essentially what the British government did as a response was they implemented a policy where basically anyone in Mirpur could basically just have open borders with Britain. Like they just got it's just actually unhinged. To be honest, it's actually a little bit similar to the Malcolm Fraser approach with Lebanon, where the Christian Lebanese were. It was in the middle of the Lebanese civil war, and the Christian Lebanese were agitating to let more Christian Lebanese into the country to escape Islamist persecution. And then Malcolm Fraser was like, how about we take in the most rural, poor Shia villages of Lebanon, which is like the complete opposite of that. Like literally the complete opposite. Like instead of taking in Christian Lebanese Maronites, they started taking in Shia Islamists from Lebanon, which is how Australia first got the problem of Islamist Lebanese extremism. It's very similar to the Mirpuri thing. And essentially, that massive wave of migration from Mirpur, it was primarily very regional, like very rural, poor people, often not educated. And a lot of people in Pakistan see the Mirpuris as almost like the hillbillies of Pakistan. And they were often the ones who settled in northern England, which of course was a very poor part of England. There was the deindustrialization. Like, talk about a great social experiment. You take the poorest part of Pakistan with the deepest rural conservatism, just like basically a part of Pakistan that is centuries behind the West in terms of cultural development, and then you plop them down in deindustrializing poor parts of England and just free for all. Amazing. And then the result was the insane psychosis, which we saw with unfortunately the mass abuse of young girls in England by primarily Mirpuri Pakistani gangs. It was often Mirpuri guys. I didn't know it was that. Yeah, okay, because I knew it was Pakistani. It's like 82% Pakistani or something insane. Amazing.
But, okay, it was that
amazing.
Subset. Wow, and that's what
such a good story. It's so bad.
It's such a great story, actually. It's so indicative of what is happening and what we need to fix. And in my can I mention the interview I did with Will Kingston?
Please do. Yes, please.
For my podcast. So I asked him about the Gordon and Denton by-election.
Oh, that was so bad.
So bad.
That was full sectarianism. Like, that wasn't even democracy. That was just straight up like racial headcount, which is insane. It was so bad. So bad.
It's insane. And that's exactly the same part of Britain where you're talking about, which is, so you can draw a straight line through to that suicidal, stupid decision by some like polite Brit that's like, oh gosh, like, I'm so sorry, terribly sorry, come into my home and visit me, and what we're seeing now, which is there was campaigning in Urdu in that.
Oh, that was so bad. The Greens literally campaigned almost fully in Urdu. That's insane. And they also saw the highest rate of family voting in the history of, British elections. Basically, men were leading their wives and daughters into the booths and telling them how to vote, which is just so bad. Like, again, this is not democracy. That is literally not democracy. There's no policy debate there. There's no contest of ideas. That's the thing that's saddest about it. There's literally no contest of ideas. There's no intellectual debate. It's just my community is voting for this communal candidate and the opposing community is voting for the other communal candidate. And it's just like Lebanese style sectarian headcount.
Totally. And that's why it's good. Like, I disagree with you on some things like Ukraine, for example, whatever, but like you shouldn't be able to know someone's view on one thing and know absolutely everything else that they know and believe as well.
That is a bad thing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is a bad way to be in the world.
For a community.
Exactly. I want to point one thing out. So there's like this guy, Jim Clow or whatever. He's like this lefty guy who's trolling. He thinks he's raised a good point. He goes, there's going to be conflict between Irish Catholic and Ulster Protestants. So we need to regulate migration from Ireland. I don't think I understand. If there were Northern Irish migrating to Australia and then bombing each other, yes, I would immediately say limit migration from Ireland. Like, does he think this is a good... I don't understand why he thinks this is a gotcha. If like Catholic Norrish... If Catholics from Northern Ireland and Protestants from Northern Ireland were bombing each other in Australian cities, I would say completely end migration from Northern Ireland. Like, I just don't understand. Why does he think that this is a good... Like, why does he think that's a good idea? Like, why does he think this is a gotcha? Like, oh, ha, ha, ha. Like, oh, you would want to bring in the Troubles to Australia. But what? I don't want to bring in the Troubles to Australia. I don't want any sectarian ethnic conflict. Just stupid. I don't understand. Like, what is this guy thinking? Like, he thinks we would endorse... I don't know. Can you even try to imagine what he's trying to think here? I don't even know.
No, I mean, like, it's not the get I think that he thinks it is. And the other reason why it's not is that is our culture already, right? The first fleet came to Australia and it was mostly Protestant, but it was also, as we all know, convicts.
Catholic Irish as well.
Right?
Yeah.
So from the moment of white settlement and when Australia became Australia, we actually had that conflict, baked into our culture and genetics. There was a big, divide between Catholics and Protestants for the same reasons that happens in Northern Ireland and for the same reason that the Troubles are happening, right? It's like evolved differently, obviously. But like, I mean, I don't know, like that's my culture still. So even like, I agree, I wouldn't want to be importing more of that, but it's like, okay, yeah, like, sorry, that's my problem. Like, I'll own it.
Well, it is like, well, people... I get what you're saying because, like, for example, I've had people try to give this as a gotcha, right? So they were saying to me, like, oh, you say that Naveed Akram should never have even been in Australia, but what would you say about Martin Bryant, who was obviously a white Australian who did the Port Arthur massacre, killed 30 people? And I'm like, look, unfortunately, Martin Bryant is our problem. Unfortunately, Martin Bryant is the problem of Australia because every country is going to have, unfortunately, a native homegrown criminal horrific element. Obviously, unfortunately, human beings are a fallen species. Like we do not have perfect morality, right? There is always going to be evil in the world. We're not going to solve the problem of evil. But it's just like having a homegrown criminal element doesn't mean, okay, then let's bring in a foreign homegrown criminal element. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense at all. No, it's just so dumb.
And he's saying Australia has a large Irish population that assimilated over time. Okay, fine. Are you trying to tell me that the difference between Protestants and Catholics is bigger or as big as the difference between Christians and Muslims or, Hindus and Buddhists?
And Sikhs or whatever,
obviously they're different.
And it's also funny as well, like he makes this point, but again, it doesn't actually make his point because it took Australia like 150 years of sectarian conflict to get to a position where people stopped caring about basically being Catholic versus Protestant. And like, and so like, do we want that again? Like, it took us 150 years or almost like 200 years to get to the point where people weren't discriminated against based on like, the different Christian sectarian sect that they belong to. Do we want that? Shows that even the smallest, minutest difference can still be, a source of social conflict. So it took Australia 150 years to try to work out the divide between Catholic Irish and Protestant English. So therefore, let's bring in all these jihadists who want to slaughter us all. Like, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't follow from that. It doesn't follow from that at all.
No.
It definitely does not follow from that.
This versus like this, like the difference is like not the same.
Yeah, of course. I love this idea. Like, wow. So Australia had sectarian conflict between Protestants and English, Protestants and Catholics. Therefore, we should import more sectarian conflict between like, I don't know, like Islamists and Jews. Why would we want that? Why does it follow that having a homegrown Christian sectarian problem that we dealt with for 150 years means that we should then bring in all these jihadists to come kill Jews. Like, what the fuck?
No, crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yeah, and also, I will say there were 8 Jews on the first fleet, so...
Yeah, and I often make that point too. I think there were, you know, they have been part of the Australian national story since the first fleet in a way that I don't think, like, you know, Islamists can say that they are part of the national story. They, of course, try to insert themselves into the national story with a lot of subversive rhetoric about, oh, you know, the Makassar sea cucumber traders, the Indonesian fishermen who traded with one tribe in the Northern Territory. That means that, therefore, Australia is an ancient Islamic country. Like, that's the type of dumb shit that they do. And I don't think having sporadic trade contact between, like, Makassar fishermen from Indonesia and one single indigenous tribe in the Northern Territory there were 300 separate indigenous nations. I don't think that limited sporadic trade contact means that Australia has always been an Islamic country, like, which they try to say somehow.
No, totally. It's insane.
Yeah. Amazing. Listen, Monica, it's actually been great to have you join the call, because it's a lot easier when somebody joins the stream, because then I don't have to just fill dead air by just constantly talking for an hour and a half. Fuentes is able to do that for 4 hours. Like, I cannot do that for 4 hours. I think I can do it for like
4 hours.
It's crazy, right? I mean, again, I hate Fuentes, but he's a pretty generational broadcasting talent.
Wow.
I can maybe speak for 30 minutes off the cuff, but it gets hard. It's good when people join the stream. It makes it easier.
Happy to join anytime. Yes,
thank you, Monica. I'm looking forward to doing the podcast about the NDIS. Hopefully next week we'll talk about the NDIS video, and I will help you promote your new podcast. You should tell people before we leave. I'll put your Twitter up so that people can follow you.
Thanks.
Hang on 1 second. No worries. 1 second. Let me get it. Okay. So Twitter. Again, what's your handle? It's Quite Frankly Australia.
Quite Frankly AU. Yeah.
Quite Frankly AU. Oh wait, I had it. Oh wait, shit. I had it and then I lost it. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So guys, Monica is starting out in the commentary game. I encourage everybody to go and follow her. She's got very sound views. She's a patriot, and we need more female patriots, of course, because we have to have somebody fighting against the Abby Chatfields of the world. So I really hope that Monica can be a vanguard against Abby Chatfield ideology in Australia. I encourage everyone, go to Monica Lewis's Twitter at Quite Frankly AU. She's starting up her podcast, and I'm going to go on the podcast next week with Pete to discuss the NDIS.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Drew. This was fun. This is my first Twitter live. So, you know.
It was on YouTube as well. No, excellent. No, it was good fun. Well. Excellent. No, thank you so much, Monica. I really appreciate you coming in. And I will say thank you, and I'll see you on Monday. Thank you. I'll let you leave this call, and I'll do one more minute with my followers, and then I'll leave the whole thing.
Amazing. Okay, thanks everyone.
Okay,
good
bye.
night. And
sorry if I accidentally cut her too short. I feel bad. I've put Monica's stream up. Her Twitter is Quite Frankly AU, and she is a patriot. She lodged a complaint with the Australian Human Rights Commission under 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act over the Death to Australia graffiti made by communists. So Monica is a great patriot. We need more female patriots, I think. It's a tough road because Abby Chatfield ideology dominates the youth in Australia, dominates young female population in Australia. Monica, hopefully, will be a vanguard against that. So I encourage all my followers, go and follow Monica. Great person, very cool. And I want to say thank you everyone who joined in today. It was actually a great stream. We did about 90 minutes of streaming. I appreciated everyone. We had more than 1,000 people tune in total. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And we will pick back up in a few days. I might even stream tomorrow. I'll quickly finish this one. If your argument, though, is that all ethno-religious divides lead to violence and instability, at what point are you just not for total ethno-nationalism? I'm not for all total ethno-nationalism. I'm just saying be realistic about the amount of migration you can take into a country while still assimilating people to avoid ethnic violence in the country. You can take in small amounts of migration because when it's in small amounts, you can assimilate people. The Greeks came into Australia in very small numbers, and then therefore people basically assimilated pretty easily. I think when you take in numbers in massive, I think when you take in migration in massive numbers, when people are living in enclaves where they're not engaging with other communities, that's when you're going to start having ethnic enclaves. That's where it's going to be very difficult. So again, I think I've explained myself very clearly. But again, I also want to say to the people who shouted out, people who joined user 86V1L, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Thank you to Waskilly1 for a $2 super chat. I appreciate you. And also to David N2N7N for the $1 super chat. I appreciate everyone who does a super chat. If you're watching, please remember to subscribe to my channel and leave a like. Oh, Drunken Aussie, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. That's a very generous super chat. I appreciate the $10 super chat by Drunken Aussie 76. Thank you, King. You're a legend. And I just want to say thank you so much, everyone who joined. It's been a great call tonight, actually. We will do another one, maybe tomorrow. We'll see how I'm going with work and university. I feel bad that I didn't get to you, Aiden. We will do a stream sometime this week. We got to talk about the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. It'll be very interesting because you are literally there. But again, thank you, everyone. God bless you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. The fortress of righteousness is rising, as Friendly Geordie's described it. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribe. God bless you all. God bless.